Welcome to Recover Her, the podcast where your healing journey begins. I'm Heather Novak, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Tracy Oppenheim, a compassionate psychiatrist. Today, we embark on a path of recovery and self-discovery. We are dedicated to inspiring each and every one of you to overcome your struggles and live your best, most fulfilling life. Your recovery starts now, and we're here with you every step of the way.
It's only up from here, 'cause there's no one else that's me.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Recover Her podcast. I'm Heather Novak, here with
Tracy Oppenheim.
Yes, hi, Dr. Oppenheim.
Hello.
Well, we were kind of undecided about what we were going to talk about today, but I started kind of answering some emails from some of our listeners that all had a very similar tone. And they were dealing a lot, it can be a heavy-hitting topic, with anger and anxiety, specifically, that kind of leave people a little bit debilitated or in a rut, stuck. So we could pick.
Let's go anger.
Oh, we're going to go anger.
Yes.
Okay. And what a powerful emotion that can be, right? I know in my own experience that there were years that had gone by that I had no capacity to even know that I was so fucking angry. But I had no idea what my anger was as a feeling. You know, you could get angry at situational things. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. I knew what it felt like to have anger as an emotion. A little bit, but not really. It was kind of like fear. I didn't think I was afraid of anything except for snakes, which now I no longer have that fear after my time spent inside of ayahuasca medicine when I was a snake. But there have been times over the last, say, 5 years where I have been very when anger has been brought forth right in front of me, and it's been undeniable, and then I can pinpoint maybe the origins of it, or simply just let myself be fucking angry.
Can I ask you a couple of things about that? Because I hear you when you're saying that. Maybe you didn't realize that you were as angry as you were, but, from an outsider perspective, you are one of the people I respect the most when it comes to anger, because it appears like, and this is what I want to get into with you, and then I want to compare it to my relationship with anger, is that it becomes, you're not afraid of your anger. And then oftentimes it's very actionable for you. So you'll use it as rocket fuel, and then you move through it.
Right.
And so how do you do that?
Well, at first I just had to, I had to meet my anger, because I really just didn't know what that was before. I'd mentioned in previous episodes that we talked about that I was always happy or stoic. So anything else that fell outside of just sometimes just faking it. You fake it till you make it. I heard that a lot as well. And now I'm allergic to faking anything. So I just didn't think that Heather Lee Robb was my given name, that I didn't walk into any space and present myself as an angry person at all. But of course it's a part of me, And I'm grateful that today I can express that. And so I hear what you say, what you're saying about how you've witnessed me with that particular emotion. And today I do honor and respect and love my anger because it allows me to not only stand up for myself, but
protect yourself.
Yeah, it's for sure a protector, but in such a beautiful way. If you're not weaponizing it and it's not a danger to others. I know exactly when I'm furious or when I'm angry about something, and it can be very, very justifiable. Now, I don't want to ever like live in that space or harbor anger or harbor it towards someone else. That's not where I want to get stuck. But
it's like it's like a barometer for you, right? Like where you feel it and then you figure out why it's telling you that something's off.
That's giving
right?
me a lot more credit than I don't have that kind of control often with my anger. So when my anger is fueled by something, an event or another person,
Sure.
when it's fueled by that, I will unleash the anger. I'm no longer stuffing it or pretending like it doesn't exist. And then that energy, the momentum, the kinetic energy that's behind anger that for me allows me it just allows me for movement. It allows me to see what I really want, to get out of a situation, maybe that I'm stuck inside of, or a decision that needs to be made. It just allows me movement.
Yeah, it moves you.
Instead of being stuck. So when I honor the anger that I have over a lot of things that I have no control over, none. But when I honor that feeling that I have of anger, it propels me into what I think is an action mode that allows me to hopefully do something good on the other side of it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. It's such a great. It's a strength. It's a strength of yours, and I want to clarify that there's a difference between being a quote angry person and then having a relationship or a friendship with your anger. So yeah, you didn't. No one was.
What's kind of the opposite of anger?
Well, I mean,
peace, right?
Yeah, I think.
I do notice that when I can express my anger, when I allow it, when I allow it to consume me, so that I'm just drained after. There's no, as we've talked about, like my pilot light will go out.
Yeah.
But when I'm coming back from that, it almost, that action sort of feels, it just makes so much more room, almost for more flow. And I don't want to call that peace, but, we've so often learned that in order to feel great amount of love, you have to feel the polarity of that, which is pain, right? And so because I've allowed myself to lean into anger or some of that discomfort, I also then get to reap the benefits.
Yeah, for sure. I see that.
Of the opposite.
And I think
which for me, that can be slowing down. It's action. It's very actionable. Yes. When I'm honoring that anger, when I'm feeling it, it's a momentum that pushes me forward of doing something differently. Because the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, the anger is definitely derived internally. But where I noticed before when I couldn't express my anger, when I just wasn't in touch with that, as I've suffered from debilitating migraines. I think that was a lot of my internal angst and anger that I had harbored within. And I've had a lot of freedom on the other side of not being able to. There was one December where I had a migraine every single day. And I remember reading and hearing about women that had committed suicide, like jumped off of buildings because they were like, I'm not living like this. And I too said, I'm not living like this anymore. But that simply meant that I hadn't found my cure yet.
Yeah, and I think that the anger obviously can be destructive, can be unhealthy.
Sure.
But I think that you also have this ability with your anger in that it's the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And so then
what's below the surface.
So after you're able to make sure you're safe. And I know that we use that word a lot, meaning I'm angry about something. I'm going to make sure my environment is safe. I'm going to make sure I'm safe. And then you're going
kind of regulate your nervous system all over again.
And then you're going to deal with whatever's right in front of you in terms of using that anger as a call to action in a way. And then you do take time to then figure out what's underneath it.
Right.
And oftentimes it's fear, right? Or fear and worry, sometimes sadness, but lots of times it's
fear motivated.
Fear motivated.
Where the anger is sort of sitting there, perpetuating.
It's kind of like the big brother, like I'm going to take care of things, that you're maybe not ready to feel yet, and make sure that we're safe. And then once that happens, then you're able to sit with the other emotions. But I do think it allows for, I do think it allows for you to handle your shit and to not get taken advantage of, to make sure you are using your boundaries to, I see how it serves you. And I know that when you say you don't want to weaponize it, that's when it can become destructive, right?
Sure.
Like, what do you mean by
weaponize? I just think
weaponize?
that you can, obviously you can, abuse other people by throwing your anger on top of, I think about kids, for instance, and being able to express your feelings and emotions, all of them in a safe container, have someone that knows you in and out, but not to, when I say weaponize, that's screaming and belittling and yelling and making you feel less than because you are, and I've been inside those spaces before where people are gritting their teeth with me, and and I know full well that has nothing to do with me. That is all of their own internal unresolved angst. Like, I've done enough work on myself that I know how to feel those feelings when they're coming up. It was interesting because my son, when he was little, he was like a toddler, maybe a little bit older. And he would describe his anger as he knew when it was welling up inside of him. And he would say, just over really appropriate things, I'm getting him to leave the train park and knowing that it's going to be an explosive tantrum to get this done. Not every time, very rarely actually, because he learned how to sort of regulate his emotions. But he would say, I feel the badness coming up in me. I feel it. So when you know it and it's coming, to be able to honor it and express it and know that you're safe to be able to do that. And I don't know if everyone has really been given that opportunity. Especially
women, right?
Right. Well, that's what I'm talking about. I've gotten a lot of emails recently and text messages from women that have talked about being in a slump, and they're talking about anger and almost feel shame over
a lot of shame,
angry, instead of what I, in my never to be so humble opinion, is just to simply allow yourself to feel. Whenever I feel a feeling, if I allow myself the space to feel that feeling, I'm so much better off. Versus, I was telling you one morning, I was walking across my house with a basket of laundry at like 6 a.m. and I felt anxiety. I felt anxiety. My heart was racing, and it is not a good feeling. No. And I'm not used to feeling anxiety either, because I, for a long time, just didn't honor any of those kind of more negative feelings. Because who wants to feel that shit? So I would intuitively just say to myself, then, kind of just don't feel that way, or you can medicate, or you can drink, or you can do something to distract yourself, to allow yourself to not feel the anger or the anxiety. And I was walking across the living room carrying a basket of laundry, and nothing had happened. I just woke up with anxiety. And I heard a voice in my head, which is, of course, me. I've said before that I think that it's sometimes my higher power or God, but it is absolutely my own internal voice. And it said, how about you just allow yourself to feel anxious, Heather? And I literally just stopped, set down the basket, and allowed myself to feel. And it wasn't pleasant to allow myself to feel that level of anxiety.
How long did it take to move through you?
Probably 5 minutes max.
Yeah.
And I knew I was safe. I was okay. I was by myself. And I just allowed myself to feel whatever it was that I was feeling. Anxiety or anger. I don't try to suppress that shit anymore.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to anger, particularly for women, we always joke about that word demure. Oh, was I not demure enough for you? Right.
Yeah.
Like, so obviously there's a lot of societal expectations and modeling and reasons why we have a lot of shame around anger. But also I think anger takes up space. Like when you allow yourself to feel angry, it can be
and I want myself to take up space.
That's what I'm saying.
I allow it to eat up the entire space if it needs to.
Yeah, it's a very big,
huge emotion,
expanded state, and so often as women, we want to be
constricted, unintentionally, and it just keeps it. It kept me so small. I'll just keep it to me. Not allowing yourself to feel that really powerful emotion just keeps you, like you said, so constricted and unintentionally smaller. And I don't want to play small, and I don't give a shit what society standards are or what they're supposed to be. Then if that is the case and that's been expressed somewhere, then I want to do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I just want to be unbrainwashed by it all.
And I think, for me, I was around a lot of anger growing up as a kid, and I definitely didn't like the way that felt. And not only
what it induces a lot of fear.
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of fearfulness, and then even like stepping outside myself, like I could witness what someone's anger, the impact that had on the environment around them.
Yeah.
So even though it wasn't me directly per se, like I could witness how it just was affecting other people, even just, people outside of the family. And I was like, oh, that's a terrible way to treat other people. Right. It just the view that I had of it was it just led to so much disconnection. And obviously that's because it's not being felt and expressed in a healthy kind of way. But unfortunately for me, I generalized that, right? So like under anything that would fall under the auspices of anger was like, like I don't want that.
I see.
So I think, and I still, I'm excited. I think it will more to come, but it's still like definitely not a go-to emotion for me. It's hard for me to feel. Sometimes when I feel it, I can feel a little like overwhelmed by it. But what I'm playing with lately is how it can make you very like actionable. Like we were just talking about an email I needed to send earlier, and I was really pissed. And it allowed me to have my act together. It allowed me to, arm up. It allowed me to hold, someone else accountable. And then I got taken care of. I protected myself, and I wouldn't be able to do that unless I had access.
You honored that
to that anger.
Oh, I love that.
But I think. For me, and
it's very, very powerful.
It is. It can be. It can be powerful.
It's just like when I can't remember. One of our episodes was talking about. I think it was Julie that was saying, "What if all of the love that you seek on the outside is there within you? How would that make you feel? Do you want that?" And I see anger as a really close companion to love, because it's what you just said, it's honoring self-love in the end, right? So what if there aren't, the way that I've always diagnosed things or labeled, with good or bad emotions? What if they're not either one of those?
Yeah, we know that that's true.
Right. Like, what if anger isn't this taboo thing that we should just like a hot flame recoil from, justifiable or otherwise? Now, I don't want to live as an angry person's soul. I don't want that to affect
you
want to
have a healthy
way.
Relationship with anger, right?
I definitely want to have a healthy relationship with my anger.
We know people that are angry, that do very self-destructive things to themselves or to other people. That's not what we're talking about at all. But I had this. So when I'm around you and you're angry, it's not
scare you.
It does no, and it's not like a repulsion, right? Like it's an attraction in terms of I want to know what's she going to do. There's going to not only what is she going to do, but what's going. It makes me like I'm in it with you, right? Like I'm curious about it. I want to know what's going on. And I think for me, there's still this idea that if I am angry, then that's going to lead to disconnection, because that was what was modeled for me. So if my anger would then make me unlovable or would make people, respect me less or whatever. And I have found the opposite in work. We've talked about that.
You find the opposite to be true.
Yeah. That when I get fired up about something, people will come
there's
to me
often more respect.
They'll say, thank you so much. Can you do that
for having that level of conviction?
Yeah. Can you do that more, please? So I think anger can be, powerful, very powerful, but also like sexy in that it's serving a purpose if you get to be with it and learn what's underneath it and
how to harness your own anger versus being on the other side of it, which we've all been too, the recipient of someone else's really misdirected and destructive anger. That again, that is not what we're sharing at all, because we've witnessed that in others, and that I don't know that's a that is when someone there. It's just a real recognition of powerlessness, of having no control. So you try to weaponize it by abusing someone else, and that's not constructive anger,
And for me, it is tied into boundaries also, in that I think as women, we default to, it's okay. Like, too quickly.
Anger.
Who knew?
I think about that little angry guy.
I just know in the movie.
What is it?
Inside Out?
Inside Out.
Little red guy.
Oh my God.
I like him.
I love him. He's so fucking fired up. Oh, he wants to get in there all the time. And maybe anger can help mitigate. It can fix. Maybe anger can really, like you said, what you've seen, that it generates momentum forward. It can help recognize something that is just sitting dormant that you can't put up with anymore, that you can't, there's a boundary that needs to be laid. So I just think it's a fascinating discussion for sure. And like I said, I just had received so many questions about how can I, even just on a simple level, move through my anger. And, for me, it was simply just recognizing that I was angry in the first place because I just didn't even know necessarily what that emotion felt like. I just kind of harbored it internally. And then I had physical ramifications that were pretty serious because of it. Some daily migraine headaches going on.
And we know in particular with anger that when we internalize that, it can be so detrimental to our
health,
to our physical health, to our body, very.
It's how does funny, that affect right? Other people? Because I know it's how it's affected me.
Well, it's funny because if you think about like anger, like you think of one, like he or she is inflamed, right? You've heard that expression, they're inflamed.
So you're literally full of information.
Yeah. So I think, finding that way to express it, to know it, to get curious about it, to know, and then to be able to play with this idea of when is it misdirected?
Yes.
When is it helpful versus hurtful? I know sometimes when my anger can be misdirected is if somehow I feel like there's an injustice going on, or I didn't like the way someone spoke to me, or there was some type of boundary violation, and then it builds up in me, and I feel that tension rising in me. But ultimately, at that point, it's because I didn't take care of myself.
Stand up for yourself. I see.
And that's when it becomes like misdirected beyond.
How does sarcasm fit into that?
Oh yeah, good. That's like a safe way. It's a safe way
of saying fuck you.
Right. And so that that obviously I'm generalizing, not all the time, but sarcasm is like it's a dig. It's such a dig.
Poison, I feel like.
I do too.
It's big. It's very weaponizing.
I think so too. It's a very indirect way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I grew up hearing a lot of, you think you know everything. That tone and that. And recently I had an exchange with somebody who said that to me, and boy, that was fucking triggering. I'm like, what did you just say? Can generate some anger.
Physically, what does anger feel like?
Oh boy, it is very alive. It's very electrifying. It doesn't feel heavy. It feels lit up.
It's interesting as I was just listening to you, kind of describe those feelings, what anger does in your body. And I was like, what is going on? Because as you were talking, I actually felt like sadness come over me. And I was like, what? Like almost like tears coming to my eyes. And I just like in an instant recalled so many different experiences where I wish I would have gotten really fucking angry. Yeah. Like, and so.
But because you were unable to express that, you obviously didn't feel safe enough to do that. You didn't feel, maybe if you're a child, you don't feel empowered enough to do that. So then you would kind of, I don't know, kick the can down the road of life of not being able to express anger into our adult life. Maybe that's why so many women struggle with anger.
Yeah,
lack thereof, like not being able to feel or access anger.
Yeah, I was just thinking like examples in my adult life where I was like, more of like, it's more comfortable to, obviously it's not in your control, but it felt much more comfortable to either like freeze, right? Like a
see.
freeze response, or even different than a freeze response, just be like,
Ugh.
whatever.
Yeah,
I'll you know, I'm better than this, or I can deal with this on my own. But I really think that it can leave you unprotected.
I see. So if you could go back and relive one of those experiences, how would you have done it differently?
I don't know. I still don't know if I'm there where I would have been able to, but I think it would have been allowing my, you know, Jordan and I joke around a lot about this expression of like puff out and get big. Like when we got to gear,
that is
when we got
interpretation of anger.
When we got to gear up for something, like okay, we're going to puff out, get big.
Do you mean a conflict of some kind?
It doesn't matter whether it's like a conflict or whether there's like something that just needs to be like handled and taken care of. Like it's
something
action
needs to be
time. We're
addressed.
going to puff out, get big. Let's go.
Get big.
You know, show up, puff out, get big. And so I just imagine like in my fantasy land, it would have been more of like, rather than recoiling from like the anger that was coming at me, it would have been just like, you know, just matching it. Do you know what I mean? And showing up and taking a step towards it.
Right.
And just being like, no.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, anger. So, what are we going to leave our listeners with? 3.
I would love, the first thing is just to like take some time to like think about it and get curious about what is your relationship with anger. How has it hurt you in your life?
Yeah.
How has it served you in your life? Is it a go-to emotion for you? Is it an emotion that you reject? I think that would be number 1.
Yeah. Number 2 is something you just said, was recognizing what it does to your body. You know, noticing where you feel it. And for me, I said it was electrifying, or it feels like a lot of electricity and movement within. And it is empowering.
And then number 3 was an exercise that I did before where it really helped me start realizing that I wanted to make more room for anger. Was just like a letter to it, like, you know, borrowing Elizabeth Gilbert's take, dear anger, what would you have me know? And it was really cool, actually, because it was like, it was a lot about like, you know, you deserve like goodness, you deserve safety.
Yes.
Like
I'll take care of you.
Yeah. And
the anger's just trying to protect you.
Yeah. So that was,
when you look at it from that perspective, it's very... Yeah, I want to protect it too.
Yeah.
It's just another part of us, right?
So if people are out there, all of a sudden a lot of women are just out there being angry, we take full responsibility. Recover her.
My fault. Our fault. Love it.
We love it. We love you. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Bye.